All right, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? I am Frank Red, and welcome for another edition of the In the Dungeon Show. Um, Great to be with you. Got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of interesting games in the world of sports, and so many. I mean, the NFL is on point. We're going to talk about that. College football, WNBA, MLB. Entertainment news is taking us by storm. You guys know what time it is. There's a lot out there involving, various people and all of the inner workings of entertainment business. And I've been thinking about that today. I'm going to comment on it, but I'm not going to talk about specifics because those crazy parties, I wasn't at any of them. And there's a good reason why. But I can talk about the entertainment business. Entertainment business is not for kids. Even though there's a bunch of kids in it, it is not for kids, that's for sure. But primarily, we're going to talk about what's happening in the world of sports. This is probably the best time of the year as a sports fan. You have the NFL literally about to start its fourth week. Major League Baseball is about to start the playoffs. Some interesting stories there concerning the great Shohei Ohtani. The WNBA is off to an arousing start in the playoffs after having a historic regular season. We're going to talk about that as well. And college football. I've always been a big-time college football fan. But even more now because there's so many different storylines that are interesting to not only football fans, but I think the casual sports fans, and for people like myself, and I'm sure you, that like to look beyond the numbers. There's some interesting stories. Never has there been a time in college football where there have been more opportunities for people of color. So no one's really talking about that because maybe they think it's been normalized. I don't think so. It's gotten a lot better. It's one thing to get an opportunity, but there's something else to actually take advantage of it. And I think we're starting to see that. So, I want to talk about some of that stuff as well. But first and foremost, I want to introduce myself. My name is Frank Red. How are you doing out there if you're listening for the first time? Welcome to the program and check us out. If you like to hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe to the show if you check it out and you think it's worthy of your time. For all of the people who routinely check the show out, I want to thank you once again for joining us in conversation. I really appreciate it. And follow me on X at Big Frank Red. It's right there on the screen, right there. You can see it. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a lot of folks checking in from different places around the world, and I want to acknowledge that. So let's go out there and just acknowledge my man, Aussie Rules, who's out there in Bangkok. Aussie Rules, what's up? He says, hi, Frank, from Bangkok. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock in the morning on Monday, 11 or 12, I'm not quite sure. But I thank you, man. That's 10,000 miles away. A trip that I have made multiple times to Bangkok. That is no joke. Once you get there, it's like paradise, but you got to get on that plane, man, and spend anywhere from 13 to 16 hours taking that trip. So for you to tune in and check the program out, I really appreciate it. Also, I didn't get a chance to answer your email, but thank you for the update on how long Cal and Stanford are legally committed to being in the ACC. And I'll talk about Cal and Stanford. But as you and I know, contracts are meant to be broken when it's feasible for all parties involved. All right? Thank you. The great Vicky says, hi, Frank. College football was more entertaining than the 49er game. As a whole, it was. Yeah, no doubt about that. That's why I want the Michigan coach to do well. Yeah. What is his name? His name is Sharon, right? What's his name? I mean, did you see him hyperventilating on the sideline? He was nervous as heck. Oscar Ruth says it's 11 a.m. Monday morning. Yeah, I know. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Michigan got over on USC. They did not deserve to win as much as USC did, but they probably needed to win more. You know, a new coach following a Hall of Fame coach in Jim Harbaugh. Michigan needed to get off to a good start, especially after that, that effort against Texas where they got embarrassed on national television. So Michigan came up yesterday, and I still like what I see from Lincoln Riley's team now. They're not the hot shot offense that they were at Oklahoma and when he first got to USC. They're a balanced football team. And I think that's the type of team that can sustain itself over a period of time and win tough games. So good for them. Archie Root says USC missed an opportunity to break into the top 10. Yeah, want the Pac-12 teams to do well in the Big Ten. Yeah, but they're going to do well because they're good teams. They're powerhouse programs. I mean, think about it. You got Oregon, you got Washington, you got Colorado. They had something. Cal and Stanford are balling out of control. You know, Cal almost got over on Florida State. I mean, if Florida State, imagine if Florida State had lost to Cal and started the season 0-4, Norvell would not have seen the light of day this week. He would have been done. But they beat Cal, made a couple of plays late. Cal was very competitive. But if they're going to make a statement, those are the type of games that they need to win. But, you know, I give them all the credit in the world to travel 2,500, close to 3,000 miles down to Florida to play that game on their home field. Definitely big them up. My man Keys said, "What's up, Frank? Niners starting slow. Should be expected with the turbulent offseason, but our coaching has been awful, especially special teams and defense." Yeah, I agree with you. They ran Steve Wilkes out of town, right? They ran Steve Wilkes out of town because he wasn't a, quote, good fit. And this is professional sports, right? You got to get the job done. Remember Buddy Ryan punching the offensive coordinator on the Chicago Bulls? This isn't about whether or not I'm in love with somebody or do I like them. Are they doing their job? I thought Steve Wilkes got a raw deal. I honestly do. And a lot of people in the media and all over the country try to explain that move. And it was inexplainable. It was unexplainable. I also think it damaged Wilkes' reputation. He's an excellent defensive coordinator. I don't root against the new guy, but their defense thus far has not been great. When I watch the 49ers, they don't have a lockdown corner. They don't. They have a good team. And I listened to a couple of shows this afternoon of the post-game variety, and people were jumping off buildings. And the only thing I can say to that is a player's mentality is always going to put the onus on the players to get the job done. They're not going to blame coaches. If you're not a player, if you haven't played, you might look at it differently. But the 49ers are fine. Will they get the number one seed? Who knows? I don't know. They don't need the number one seed to reach their ultimate goal, which is to win the NFC Championship and ultimately make the Super Bowl. Will they get that far? I don't know. But I haven't seen anything from this team that says that they can't accomplish their goals. Today's loss was about making plays. The coaching wasn't great, but as a player, if I'm Ronnie Bell, if the ball hits my hands, I got to catch it. I got to own that. I didn't see any post-game comments, but I'm saying, listen, I cost us the game. This is not high school. This is not college. This is professional sports. Ronnie Bell makes $1 million a year, to catch footballs. And he's not perfect. I wouldn't be surprised if he lost his job. And that's not cool. I'm not rooting for it. But if it happens, I won't be surprised by it. The coaches didn't lose this game. Jake Moody misses a makeable kick for him. They drafted this guy in the 3rd round. When you're a kicker and you get drafted in the 3rd round, that's like being drafted in the 1st round. It came down to making plays. Even special teams, to allow that player, I can't think of his name now, but to get that long kickoff for the Rams in regulation, not even overtime. I saw guys taking bad lanes, missing tackles. Come on now. Blame the special teams coach, but I saw guys in positions to make plays, and they did not make plays. I didn't see gaping holes. I saw the kick returner running past players. Now, should they have had a different attack? Should they have skipped squid kicked? Should they have, identified an area of the field that they wanted to kick the ball? I'm not saying there's no strategy. There is strategy, but you got to make plays as a player. I'm going to talk about Shohei also. Aussie Rules. Thank you. Key says, Wilkes wasn't a yes man like Sorensen, not working so far. Hell no, Steve Wilkes wasn't a yes man. Steve Wilkes should be the coach of the Carolina Panthers now. You can talk about strategy or anything else with regards to Steve Wilkes. He's been a very successful defensive coordinator. The one thing that I know he is a leader of men. His players play for him. And I hope Sorensen does okay. But do his players sell out for him? I'm going to give you a perfect example. Last Monday night, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line against Atlanta was atrocious. Today was a different story. Those guys went out and balled their butts off. They played New Orleans, right? Yeah. And I think that was coaching. They went out there, the same players, and played their tails off. And held the team that had put up 91 points in the first 2 games to 12. And it wasn't because of the back end, because Philly doesn't have great DBs, in my opinion. The heart and soul of their defense is their defensive line. And they played extremely well. And I think a lot of it had to do with coaching. When I talk about the 49ers, I like to hear problem solving. Not people whining and jumping off buildings and talking about ridiculous stuff like Shanahan should be fired. Give me a break. Really? I know this is the content business, but give me some answers. Give me some reasons why this team can't reach their goals. People talk about Brandon Ayuk not being worth the money that he signed for. He hasn't played great. You don't miss that much training camp and start playing in regular season and play your best. That's not going to happen. Do I think that he is not going to get to the point that he was last year? No, I think he will. I think he will. And this is not fantasy football. This is real football. If you want to talk about Brandon Ayuk's salary, can you talk about how underpaid Jawan Jennings is? Are you going to renegotiate his contract in the middle of the season and pay him $20 million a year, 25? Because he looks like a top 10 wide receiver. No, you're not going to do that. The game doesn't work that way. Brock Purdy did exactly what I thought he was going to do today. Brock Purdy is a top 10 quarterback. And he went out there and he shredded the Rams. The difference between the, quote, elite quarterbacks and the very good quarterbacks, which is what I think Purdy is. Brock Purdy performs excellently when he's being protected. When he's not being protected, when he gets heated up, he's not the same player. Like most quarterbacks. Only the special guys, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, the Lamar Jacksons, can go ad hoc and get themselves out of duress and still make plays. The Josh Allens of the world. There's not a lot of those guys out there. But those are the separators. But Brock Purdy, he goes through his progressions as he looks like Joe Montana. He goes through his progressions faster than Steve Young did. To me, his footwork is excellent. But he's not going to get away from people. And when you light him up, he looks different. He's not the same. He's not. Aussie Rule says Kyle O-line may be good enough for regular season, but not against playoff caliber teams. Needs to draft top O-line prospects. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with teams drafting really talented offensive line players. I would agree with you. And I also would look at some of the things that Philly is doing. Philly is going over to other parts of the world, Australia, looking at rugby players, developing these guys in 3-4 years down the road. They're all pro offensive linemen. So I think you got to be a little more creative than just using a conventional means of acquiring offensive linemen. But I think the 49ers need to continue to beef up their offensive line, especially when you look at Trent Williams. Again, just like Ayuk. I mean, I can't imagine sitting out the entire training camp with all the reps that you get, not going through that process, and then starting the regular season against a bunch of new Lions that are coming into the league every year, ready to eat your lunch. So when I look at the 49ers division, I think they're going to be fine. However, Seattle has impressed me. They fly around defensively. Geno Smith, to see his ascension is beautiful to watch because he was lasering the football today. He really was. So it's not going to be easy, but I don't see how the 49ers won't win at least 12 games. They're going to try to get right against New England next week at home. I think they will. Maybe they'll get some of their players back. But this might be a situation where they have home field advantage for the opening round of the playoffs. We've seen this team go on the road and win in the playoffs. I don't think it's that big a deal, to be quite honest with you. I don't. Vicky says Purdy is not responsible for drops. All of his passes were there. He looked damn good today. I was impressed. I was very impressed with him. Pocket presence. He's very accurate. He knows how to read defenses. Vicky, like I said, though, the only thing about Purdy is he's not real elusive. He's not like a stiff. But, when Lamar Jackson is coming at you, you got a problem. You got a real problem. When Josh Allen is coming at you, you have a problem. Did anybody watch the Sunday night game also? I mean, I root for coaches of color because the opportunities are very rare. But I thought Raheem Morris's coaching at the end of that game was horrible. First of all, can we stop making computer geeks offensive coordinators? It's a 5-point game with 4 minutes to go. You got an easy field goal and you go for it. With Kirk Cousins, a good quarterback, but immobile. If Atlanta kicked that field goal, stopped KC, which they did, and got the ball back, they could have had a field goal to win the game. I didn't like that at all. But I grew up watching football in the 90s. 80s and 90s. I mean, I learned more about football by watching Bill Parcells than anybody. And if you're not old enough to have watched Bill Parcells, the former New York Giants, Patriots, Jets, and Dallas Cowboy coach, then you missed one of the greatest coaches ever to play. His coaching tree was crazy. Belichick was his defensive coordinator. Very simple, but very specific. Physical football. If you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, you're watching the New York Giants of the 80s and the 90s when Parcells was there. It's not a beautiful brand of football, but it's winning football. I was looking at Pittsburgh today, and guess what? You know how many All-Pros Pittsburgh have on their defense? 6 All-Pros. Highsmith, Porter Jr., Mika Fitzpatrick, Watt, Patrick Quinn. I'm missing somebody. They got like 6 All-Pros. Why do you think when Pittsburgh lines up every week, people can't score against them? 6 All-Pros? Only thing they ask their quarterback to do is don't lose the game. And Justin Fields getting better. He's getting better. Now, myself, I'm not saying that teams should have, given up a first-round pick for Justin Fields. But you see how disrespectful teams treated Justin Fields? Ryan Poles, you think he wanted to give him away to Pittsburgh? But nobody reached out and said, yo, yeah, we'll take him. Justin Fields is a talent. Know what didn't happen in Chicago? He didn't get developed. He didn't get coached up. He's finally getting coached up now in Pittsburgh, and he's starting to make more and more plays. They don't ask him to do a lot. If Russell Wilson was quarterback in Pittsburgh right now, they would still be 3-0. It would look a little different, but they would still be 3-0. Glendocious, what's up? How you doing? What's up, Frank? Do you think Travis Hunter is the number 1 pick in the draft? I think he's the best player in college football. Whether or not he'll be the number 1 player, I don't know. Dion didn't go number 1. Dion went number 5, if I remember correctly. The last wide receiver to go number 1, I believe, is Keyshawn Johnson, if my memory serves me correctly. I think it's Keyshawn Johnson. Now, Travis Hunter is more than a wide receiver. He's more than a DB. He's the best player in college. That's what I know. I think it's going to come down to need. If you need a quarterback and you have the number 1 pick, then maybe you'll trade down. But what a player. He's awesome. He's a difference maker. He's what the 49ers need. 49ers got decent safeties, you know. It was good to see Hufunga back out there. I was actually shocked how much he was flying around the field coming off an ACL injury, but it hasn't taken him a long time to kind of get up to speed. I was pretty impressed by that. But the 49ers do not have a shutdown corner. They don't. Ward's a good player, I guess. Is he a shutdown corner? No. I mean, some of these guys' technique is just awful. You go to Stanford, you learn how to play DB. Stanford teaches, they know how to coach players up, fundamentally sound. You got guys, DBs, running up players' backs and stuff. Even tonight, that Sunday night game, that was interference on the KCDB that they threw when Kirk Cousins threw the ball in the end zone. I forgot who he threw it to. Maybe it was Drake London. I'm not quite sure. But that was clearly pass interference, and they didn't call it. Key says, Purdy on Jennings were awesome. Okay, Purdy and, hold on, put my glasses on. I want to get this right. Purdy and Jennings were awesome today. I believe he is a franchise quarterback. Do you agree? Absolutely. Yes. I told you he was lights out. But I don't think he is necessarily a top 5 quarterback. He's a franchise quarterback. He's definitely top 10. Definitely top 10. And guess what? You might even squeeze it to say he's top 7, top 8. Okay. He is a franchise quarterback. And his teammates let him down today because this was Brock Purdy's moment. The great Vicky and I were actually going back and forth talking about how he was going to do today, you know, on Twitter. And he did exactly what we said he was going to do, Vicky. He came out and he was dynamite. But you got to protect him. And the 49ers did an okay job protecting him, you know. And there were some drops. You can't have drops when you're missing as many talented players as the 49ers were. Can't have that. Do I think Purdy needs to make $60 million a year? No, I don't. I don't think he does. I think the guaranteed money should be as high and as good as anybody. To me, that's the key, the guaranteed money. But average salary, I would love to see him make, I guess, 50 to 55, leave $5 million on the table to give the 49ers some flexibility. You know, if he wants to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, it's going to hurt the 49ers. That's who's going to hurt. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. They're not as talented as they were in the past. And a lot of that has to do with finances. Now, I don't mind Dak making what he makes because I thought that they jerked him around. But Dallas is not as talented as they were in the past. They're just not. You look at the Cowboys right now, they don't dominate on either side of the ball. You think the Dallas Cowboys wouldn't love to have Jason Mason? You think they wouldn't love to have that guy? Is it Justin? Jordan Mason, excuse me. They don't really have a running back. The difference between Purdy and young Sanders is athleticism. That's an interesting point, Vicky. And I actually thought about you last night as I was watching the game because while Shador isn't Lamar Jackson, but who is, you have been steadfast in talking about his athleticism and things that he can do. And he made some plays last night that showed that he can run. He's not the most graceful runner, but he's a good athlete. You're right. Shador Sanders is a good athlete, and he can run. but he's also very accurate, like Brock Purdy. He's the most exciting player to watch in college football. Travis Hunter is the best player in football. Shedeur is the most exciting player to watch. I love it. I mean, anybody who hates on Colorado and Coach Prime needs a drug test. You know? Too much cough syrup. Too much. Use some natural herbs to get over that cold because you drinking way too much cough syrup. Are you kidding me? The number one attraction in college football are the Colorado Buffaloes, which is why they played in prime time. Since when do you have a team that was 4-8 last year that hasn't had a winning season in 10 plus years playing on national television in prime time? Remember when Travis Hunter was in high school and Alabama was recruiting him? And it was all this uproar about him going to Little Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. Oh, Deion Sanders and Jackson State, they're going to ruin his draft position. It's a horrible move. How's that working out now? It's brilliant. Think about this. Think about all the schools that could have hired Deion Sanders. Auburn could have hired Deion Sanders. Can you imagine Shedeur right now in the SEC as a starting quarterback for Auburn? Are you kidding me? Give the AD at Colorado a lot of credit. He swung for the fences and he hit the ball into McCovey Cove. You know? He's like, I'm not going to hit a home run. I'm going to hit a moonshot. The economic ramifications of that one hire is sick. And Hunter holds on to the ball. What do you mean by that, Vicky? Purdy already said he would take. Oh, okay, good. I didn't know that. Purdy already said he would take less help the 49ers. Good for him. Key says, Vikings looking scary good with Donald. If he has a Pro Bowl type year and makes playoffs, I would re-sign him and trade McCarthy, the number one pick from this year. Interesting thought. I think what will happen is if somebody blows him away with McCarthy, then maybe they will. But I think what will happen is they would probably sign Donald to a nice contract, but short term. Kind of like the deal that like Geno Smith got with Seattle, maybe like a 3-year, $90 million deal, something like that, with like $50 million guaranteed. You don't let a guy like Sam Darnold, who, when he came out of college, was only 20 years old and was rated extremely high. You don't let a guy walk out of your building who's already established himself, has galvanized his teammates. I think they probably like their quarterback room. McCarthy's on a rookie salary scale. There's no rush to put him on the field. If Donald was playing well, but if Donald gets hurt or if he, unexpectedly goes awry, then you have another quarterback. Every NFL team, it's been proven, you need 2 starting caliber quarterbacks. You really do. So I'm happy for Sam Darnold because he's another reclamation project that not a lot of people saw coming. It also speaks to Shanahan's ability to develop quarterbacks. Donald has been lights out, but no one's talking about it. But as good as Donald has been, give Brian Flores his props. I said last week, and I'm going to say it again, nobody eats off Brian Flores' table. Nobody. Even when he was chewing out Tua wrongfully, Miami's defense was lights out. The last time New England was any good, Brian Flores was literally the defensive coordinator without Belichick giving him the title. Brian Flores and Belichick's son was co-running the defense. Brian Flores is a beast. He's a serious guy. Best hire of the decade. You talking Brian Flores in Minnesota? Vicky, is that what you're talking about? Brian Flores looks like the best Belichick tree coach. I agree with you. Although Bill O'Brien is rock solid. All right, I know you probably forgot about him, but don't forget about Bill O'Brien. Look what he did. Bill O'Brien took the reclamation project of all reclamation projects at Penn State and had them in bowl games, like almost immediately. Went down to Houston, kind of got drunk on power, as the decision maker and the head coach. But look what he did to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson played his best football when he was playing for Bill O'Brien. And they went to multiple playoff runs. They went to the playoffs maybe 2 or 3 times. He's taken a program in Boston College, and they're a top 20, 15 team. So Bill O'Brien, I think, ultimately is going to get back in the NFL. I believe that. So Bill O'Brien and Brian Flores have been the most successful coaches, I believe, from the Belichick tree. Key says, agree with you. Purdy is a keeper. No question. Yeah. And it's funny how we are. Now, there are people who have been on the Brock Purdy train for a long period of time. I don't have pom-poms, but it didn't take me long to realize he was a good player. But there was something inside of me that wanted to see him on his own without all of his weapons, like today. And he passed the test with flying colors. The 49ers did not lose because of Brock Purdy. They almost won because of Brock Purdy. Ronnie Bell, that disappoints me. And it disappoints me because I've watched Ronnie Bell since his Michigan days. The guy was an outstanding player at Michigan. He really was. He's come to the NFL, dropped punt returns in key situations, and today was his moment. He might not get another moment. Not good. Gwendosha says, how about the Red Rocket, a.k.a. Andy Dalton? What are they going to do with Bryce? Trade him. Can we not do this? Can we not play this stupid little game? We don't have any thoughts of trading Bryce. Come on, stop it. It's over. It's over. If you're in bed with Andy Dalton because he beat a sleepwalking Raiders team, good for you. Bryce don't want to be there, and you've already made a decision. To me, it's absurd. It's how bad organizations operate. Now, I'm not saying that Andy Dalton having success isn't nothing, because it is something. Investigate that. But I don't like how they dealt with Bryce Young. I don't like it. You don't make that type of investment and after 16 games, just throw it up. This is not the stock market. Sanders, not quite sure where you're going there. Help me out. I really like the flow of the show. Everybody is excited and opinionated about what's going on. I was just a little surprised by the hysteria that was caused by, the 49ers loss. I mean, they played New England next, who's going to come out to the West Coast and certainly play hard. That's one thing about Mayo's teams early on. And you get a chance to see why he was hired as a head coach. He's a serious guy. And his teams play hard. They do. And Jacoby Brissett, even though they lost their last game, I thought he was pretty decent. So it's not going to be a cakewalk, especially depending upon who plays for the 49ers. But you got to expect the 49ers to beat New England. If you can't beat New England on your home field, you got serious problems. Okay, thank you, Vicky. Sanders is the hire of the decade. Based on the fact that Saban has been was at Alabama damn near 2 decades. I think you're right. The only other hire that I would say is you got Lane Kiffin in Mississippi, and you got Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Tennessee literally tried for a decade to find a coach. Josh Heupel has been outstanding. But the real key with Deion Sanders, and I think everybody knows this, Vicky, what's going to happen when you don't have Shador as your quarterback? Will you stay at Colorado? Will you roll your sleeves up and do what every other program has to do? Go out and find the next guy? Or are you going to look for, the next party to go to? That's a legitimate question to ask. He left Jackson State after 2 years? This is his second year at Colorado. I think myself personally, and a lot of folks I would feel a little differently, personally, about his tenure as a college coach if he didn't stick it out at Colorado for at least 5 years. Because if he gets a good quarterback, there's no reason why he can't continue to win. The coaches are better. Fritz Shermer looks like he's never had more fun calling plays and nurturing a young stud future NFL quarterback than he's having right now as the offensive coordinator of Colorado. Colorado has improved in every facet of football. Offensive line play, not the best, but not a joke like they were last year. They're tackling a lot better. They're rushing the quarterback more intensely. They're a good football team. Now, hopefully they're not reading their own clippings because they play UCF this coming week on the road. Gus Malzahn, the former Auburn coach. They are 3-0. So guess what? If Colorado beats UCF and they're 4-1 after 5 games, they'll get some top 25 votes next week. Key says, Raiders got stomped today at home to the weakest team in the world. You wrote NFL. I'm going to say in the world. And I thought things were turning around. Same old Raiders, sad. Yeah, don't drink that Kool-Aid, man. Don't do it. Don't drink that Kool-Aid. To me, the Raiders are not a serious football team. They're just not. They're not a serious team. I like Raider fans more than I like the Raiders. And I like the Raiders. The Oakland Raiders. I won't even say the name that precedes the Raiders. I just refer to them as the Raiders. They don't play with heart all the time. Antonio Pierce, he's a dog. Obviously, I want to see him be successful. But again, they didn't aggressively go out and try to get a quarterback. They signed Gardner Minshew, who's not a scrub. He's not a scrub. But what is he? In the lower fourth in starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Maybe number 20? He got 32 teams. He's probably the 20th ranked quarterback in the NFL. You're not going to the playoffs with the 20th ranked quarterback in the NFL. It ain't happening. Vicky knows what time it is. The Raiders are only interested in money. Well, that's priority number one. That's for damn sure. And they're making a lot of money right now. It was funny watching Mark Davis on the sidelines at the Las Vegas Aces playoff game tonight. Dude paid allegedly, I don't know, anywhere from $2 to $5 million for that team. The Aces are worth now maybe $90 million. It's probably the best, straight up investment that he's ever made in his life. And ironically, it's the WNBA. The Raiders were baked in. Move an NFL team to Vegas? Are you kidding me? The Chargers wanted to go to Vegas, allegedly. And the powers that be within the NFL was like, nah, we're going to give that to the Raiders. You stay in LA. Everybody wanted to go to Vegas. It was a home run. It's a transient city. Who doesn't want to escape a cold weather city in December and not fly out to Vegas for a weekend to do whatever? Nobody knows because everything done in Vegas stays in Vegas. Who doesn't want to do that for the weekend and take Monday off and watch your team beat the Raiders? Cam Ward for the Hurricanes is fun to watch. I hope the Hurricanes can make a deep run this year. They are a lot of fun, and I think they will make a deep run. And he's exciting. Cam Ward is exciting. Again, no one's talking about it. I've watched college football for a long time. The amount of dynamic athletes playing the quarterback position now in college and in the NFL, we've never seen this before. And it's not going to stop. Why? Because the athletes in football are getting better. They're ferocious. If you don't have a Lamar Jackson type athlete, good luck. You're in trouble. The Brock Purdy's of the world, the Dak Prescott's to a certain degree, you got to protect those guys. Kirk Cousins, if you don't protect those players, they can't have any success. Stafford is, he was pretty athletic at one point in his career. He's just older now. But Matthew Stafford was an absolute beast. You go back to his days at Georgia and early on in his career, tremendous athlete. The NFL is different. Cam Ward is the only thing about Cam Keys is I don't love his release. He has kind of a sidearm, low trajectory. He's really good. He throws a soft ball. But if I say to myself, who throws the best football in college football? It's Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders throws the football like Tom Brady and Warren Moon. And oh, by the way, he's been coached by Tom Brady. Over the top, missile, follows through. Just a real catchable ball. Kind of like a Pat Mahomes type of ball also. So I love what Cam Ward is doing throughout his illustrious college career, but I don't love his release point. Don't love that. Vicky says, if the Raiders were serious about winning, they would have hired Jim Harbaugh. That's interesting. I wonder if he'd have taken the job. I hated realignment at first, but college football seems more exciting with the expanded playoffs. I'm loving it. I love the playoffs. I love that. I love 12 teams fighting for the national championship. I liked having the Pac-12. I thought that the Pac-12 was very distinct in terms of how they played. It was a different brand of football. This idea that they couldn't compete with the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, the numbers said that they wasn't quite there, but there was nothing to me that said that with a new group of coaches, they couldn't reinvent or either modify their style of football to the point where they could compete. But so far, so good. One of the things that realignment has done, and with the Pac-12 going away for a couple of years, there's more competitive games later at night. The USCs of the world, there's no reason why they shouldn't be good. Washington, with the money they have. Oregon. I said that UCLA was going to struggle and get the snot beat out of them. That's not going to change. They're what are they? 1-2, 1-3 at this point. UCLA needs to get the hell out of, what are they in, the Big 12? Get out of there. Go back to the Pac-12 because they can't compete. They can't recruit on that level. Basketball-wise, it would be fine, but not in football. What do you think about Tua? I think he should definitely retire. I think Tua should do what Tua wants to do. If the doctor says that he's okay. See, I'm a crazy guy when it comes to sports. I love sports. If a doctor would okay me to play, I'm going to play. That's just me. There's nothing like the adrenaline, the camaraderie, the lifestyle, I'm sure, the love of the game. Sometimes people forget a lot of what these athletes have was accumulated because of sports. Now, ask a person who is permanently injured for life playing football how they feel. They probably have a different perspective, but I would say that they're outliers. I think the majority of people who play sports on a high level, they wouldn't change those opportunities, those experiences for anything in the world. There's a part of me that gets upset with Tua. And I'm going to tell you why. I watched Patrick Mahomes tonight run away from defenders, and as he got closer to would-be tacklers, what does he always do? Slide. Why can't Tua slide? Tua did not have to engage the defender the way that he did. Now, that's a supplementary conversation. That's the second, third, fourth thing that you think about in that moment. First and foremost, you're worried about his health. But for Tua to get back on that field and not slide is inexcusable. I think it's irresponsible for another player or coach to publicly say what he should do. I think he should do what he wants to do if he's been cleared. Now, here's the other part of that conversation. If you as an organization are not morally comfortable with putting him in a position where he could conceivably get hurt again, then say, dude, you're not going to play for us ever again. And we're going to pay you all your money. End of conversation. Because if Tua does play again, you know money is part of that conversation, and it is a factor. What would you do, Glenn Docious? Vicky says, I am glad they have 12 teams in the playoffs now. It's far more exciting. You know? Now we don't have to hear grown-ups lie on television. Stop lying. Well, we were in the room and we crunched the numbers and we went through a process and stop it. Now you got some open slots, you know. You can take care of your homies and still have some other people and give them some opportunities. I love it. Keith says Tua should retire and doctors should make him. That's why they're there. You know, do your job. If you've looked at the CAT scans and the MRIs and you have all the data and you draw the conclusion that he should not be on the football field, then he should get on the football field. But if he's cleared by professionals, that's Tua. You know, not that he hasn't made a lot of money, but there's a lot of money there to be made. I think of people doing dangerous things all the time. You know, I don't want to get too deep, but think about all the sacrifices that people make every day in their jobs. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. If I'm Tua and it's my decision and I'm cleared, I'm probably going to play. That's just me. But I wouldn't be running out on the field gun-ho if doctors say, no, you should not be on the field. Then I'm going to respect their legal advice. And it's going to be mandated that he's not going to get back on the field. Vicky says, I think that college basketball teams are going to suffer because of travel. That's why Vanderbilt quit, didn't want to travel. Respectfully, it was probably time for her to go. I think that you're right. That has something to do with it, but it was going to be extremely hard for Stanford to compete in this era of NIL. She was already losing players. She lost her best player, and she had lost her top player the year before that, the center who went to UCLA. Her best player last year went to USC. And she had been there for 30-some years. I mean, Hall of Fame coach, Tyra Vanderveer. You know, I don't know if Stanford will ever be the same again. Hopefully they will. because it's a historic program. But I wouldn't want to do the travel personally. At this stage of her career, I would not want to do it. A younger coach with a lot more juice, who's more vibrant, who's not going to suffer some of the after effects of traveling that much. As an older person, it's probably like, you know what? Charge it to the game. I'll do it. Key says, it's a vicious game. If he can play, he's one more concussion away from serious problems, I think. I think you're right. But I'll ask you this question. What is the difference between Tua playing football and UFC fighters? With no headgear, getting kicked in the head, punched in the face, elbowed to the skull for $50,000 bonuses in front of sold out crowds. Do you know how unjust the financial philosophy of that industry is? I mean, talk about courageous. I mean, the men and women that fight in UFC, and I would say boxing to a certain degree, but especially UFC, comparatively speaking, they don't make a lot of money. They not only get brutalized in the ring, they got to practice. Answer that question for me. What's the difference between a UFC fighter and a football player? In the movie Concussion, the doctor said, God didn't make men to play football. Yeah, God didn't make men to do a lot of things that men do and women do. I liked football a lot. I love basketball, and I think I probably could have got to the point where I love football had I played it more years. But that physical violence, bring that on, man. I was all for that. Gundosha says, UFC fighters get forced to retire from the UFC often when they can't keep up or are punch drunk. Right, but they're punch drunk. They're punch drunk without the financial resources. You didn't mention the financial package that they have. Why? Because they don't have one. In NFL, they do. Good point, but Tua is set for life. I think UFC fighters are broke. I mean, you can make an argument that Tua should be set for life. Is he? I'm not in his pocket. I don't know. I just know that if he walks away from football, he might be the smartest person in the world, but his bank account would be a lot lighter. I know that. It's hard to make those decisions, those tough decisions. People make them every day. Young people are not the smartest, which is why I think, we all have to be protected from ourselves. But they love football. You see the kid Steele on Kansas City tonight. This dude runs like Isaiah Pacheco. Number 42, the kid out of Ball State, Steele, I can think of his name, white guy. Runs like his butt's on fire. looking for water to put the fire out. That's how he runs. Now, does anybody think he's going to be in the league 5 years from now? You can't brutalize your body and run like that. You can't. You got to run like Eric Dickerson, you know? There's no way you can run the football like that and be around for a long period of time. You got to run past people like McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. When you hit that second wave of defenders, you need to run away from them. Those are the bad guys. Those are like people that want to hurt daddy. Those are not your friends. You don't go human magnet and try to crush those guys, because both of you are going to suffer. Vicky says, run like sweetness. The great Walter Payton. Now, Walter Payton would pop you at the end, though, right? You know, he would give you that nice smile, and you think you're going to gingerly tackle him, and he would just knock your block off. That dude was tough. Lindocious says, Tua has his guaranteed money. They can't touch that, I believe. No, they can't. If anything, I would reach a buyout. Okay, all right. But the way he barely got hit from the other safety that almost died is wow. Quite a coincidence. It is. It is. And you might be right. Maybe that's a sign from sign from above that says, dude, get out of the game. I don't know. I know these guys love football. You got to drag the uniform off a lot of them. Frank, could you have a Niner watch party? You watching game, giving live comments. I join your watch party. Possibly. I guess you got to. Is it just me watching the game and doing a live show? Is that what it is? Maybe I will. I think that's what Damian Bruce was doing. Maybe, possibly, yeah. I'll explore it. Thank you for the idea. I appreciate you. Last Monday night, I didn't like what Aaron Rodgers did to his coach, Robert Saleh. Now, you know, Saleh was acting like he had won the Super Bowl. I get it. And Aaron Rodgers was like, dude, slow down. But don't embarrass your coach. You know, that was very Aaron Rodgers-esque. He used to kind of do that crap to LaFleur too in Green Bay. And all LaFleur did was, was crush it once Aaron left. I just don't think you need to show people up like that. With that said, I think the Jets are going to win that division. I like the Jets. It was all this, people build content sometimes off of nonsense because advertisers pay a lot of money. But you would have thought that Aaron Rodgers played like crap against the 49ers. And the reality is he didn't. He was okay. He was fine. That was his first game after tearing his Achilles. And he had 2 touchdown passes. I thought he was fine. The Jets got a good team. And with the unfortunate injury that Tua has sustained, New England, where they are, I don't really believe in Buffalo. I think Josh Allen, love him, but I'm not in love with that team. I'm not. I think the Jets are better. Warriors watch party too. Yeah, that would be cool. Definitely do that. Archie Rules says yes. Saw Jansky of 95.7 doing this YT from his home today. Okay, so something to think about. I'm still learning about all of these new opportunities to take advantage of. We'll see tomorrow about the Bills. Who do they play tomorrow? It's the Bills and who? Who do they play? They're good. I mean, they'll win probably 10 games, but I think that the Jets can win 11 or 12. How many people thought that Pittsburgh was going to get off to a 3-0 start? I'm not surprised. There's a few coaches that I would love to play for. Mike Tomlin is one of them. His players play so damn hard for him. There's a good chance that the general manager and possibly the coach, Brian Daboll, unless they exceed expectations, they're probably going to get fired. I think Daboll might survive. I think Daboll's a good coach. I do. And the general manager, I'm sure he hates the fact that he did Hard Knocks, that NFL made them do it, because he looked really bad. Now, I do acknowledge that the general manager and Brian Daboll both loved Malik Neighbors, the all-everything wide receiver out of LSU, who they ultimately drafted. They loved that guy. They did. They got that right. But imagine having Neighbors and Saquon Barkley. How can you not sign Saquon Barkley? Saquon Barkley or a healthy Christian McCaffrey are the best running backs in football. And you let them walk out of your building for $1 or $2 million to a division rival? Make that make sense. And the owner, John Mara, was like this. Saquon was our most popular player. When the owner is locked in and in tune to the fact that you just let your most popular player leave, excuse me, that's not a good thing. He says, how do you think the Knicks and Rockets will do this year? You want to make me laugh or cry? Cry happy tears. What do you know what? I'm not a crier, but I would love to cry. Listen, the Knicks won. If the Knicks, when the Knicks win a championship, you know how crazy Knicks fans are. I'm one of those fans, man. I think the Knicks are going to win the Eastern Conference this year. I believe that. I love that team. I love that team. And so definitely 50 wins, maybe 52. You know, it's going to be competitive. The whole NBA is really competitive. I mean, we're in sports nirvana right now. This is a great time to be a sports fan. There aren't a lot of bad teams out there. Washington Wizards, Charlotte. I like the Warriors team. You look at the Warriors players 1 through 10, 1 through 12. I mean, the Warriors are good. They're going to be fun to watch. And they're probably going to win more games than people think because they're smarter than most teams. The Knicks are a smart team. So, as the reigning champs, you got to give Boston the edge, I guess. Even though Porzingis is not going to be around until I believe January. I like this Knicks team, man. I like this Knicks team. If everybody buys in, they're going to be fine. How do you think they're going to do? Aussie Rules says, have a watch party for WNBA Playoff game with Caitlin Clark. Would like to see your live takes on Caitlin Clark and other WNBA players. You ever think about that? Actually, I mean, I love the WNBA and I follow it very, very closely. Nafisa Collier dropped 38 today against the Dream in the opening round. Again, there's a really good video on CNBC that kind of details the WNBA's ascension. I would say go to YouTube and find it. It actually just got posted and I watched it yesterday. It's about 20 minutes and real interesting stuff. Kind of gets behind the curtain of the commissioner putting a foot in her mouth about some of the racism and horrible treatment that the women's players receive online and how she didn't do the best job of answering the question about that stuff on CNBC. She sent a letter to the players. She apologized. They talked a lot about like the financial stuff as well. My thing is this. The minimum salary in the WNBA should be $100,000. It has to be $100,000. Right now, the minimum salary is $76,000. I don't want the league to go bankrupt, but I think that they can afford $100,000 a year. And I think maximum salaries for the superstar players should be $400,000. I don't think any player should make more than 4 times as much as any other teammate. But I think that a $100,000 floor and a $400,000 cap, when you consider that those players probably have other opportunities as well. I want to see that happen. I am on board with the WNBA. All the games today were really interesting. Do you think the 49er players play hard for Shanahan? This is what I think. I don't get the sense that they are afraid of him. I don't get that. Does that have any effect on how hard they play? Maybe. I don't know. But, Vicky, I'm disappointed in how the DBs are coached. I just don't see players with really good technique. The linebackers, the 49ers historically have done a phenomenal job coaching linebackers. Greenwall is hurt now. You got Fred Warner. Those guys are following a long list of excellent linebacking play. The Woodalls of the world. So many. Countless 49er linebackers played. Keena Turner, really good football. The DBs, They don't have a number one corner. And I don't think it's because they're not physically good enough. I just don't see the technique. Good players are going to get beat because it's competitive and there are other good players that they're playing against. But technique-wise, I'm shaking my head at some of the 49er players, the DBs. WNBA coaching players and refereeing in live game, your takes would be great. Okay. Aussie, I think you're winning me over, brother. I appreciate that. I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, I got two takes. One, first and foremost, I want people to come up in the media for air when talking about Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is what MLB needed right now. This dude is a marvel. He is a phenomenon. He's the most popular baseball player in the world. Now, I saw Ken Griffey Jr. hit 58 home runs in a year. I saw Ken Griffey Jr. hit a home run in 8 straight games. Some of the stolen bases that Shohei takes will get you beamed 20 years ago. Remember the crazy game that he had recently where the Dodgers won 20-4 and he's stealing bases? Let me introduce you to Pete Rose. You probably wouldn't like him very much. And listen, it doesn't matter to me, but that whole my manager was taking money out of my account, millions, and I didn't know about it to make bets. And I just didn't know it. I mean, really, y'all? Really? Really? Come on now. Come on, you believe that? He didn't know nothing about it. Remember when like your mom tells you to like clean the house up and sweep the floor, and you know you sweep it up, right? And you get some of the stuff off, and then you kind of sweep a little bit in the corner under the rug really fast. Whether or not he was culpable or guilty of anything, I'm not discussing that because I have no information on that. I would assume that he wasn't. But it was strange, right? Have you guys just like totally forgot about that? Because I haven't forgot about that. To me, that's a stain on him. And it's horrible if he had nothing to do with it. But it seemed like they wanted to detach baseball and Shohei from that episode as fast as they possibly could. So, I've seen great baseball players. Now, if Shohei was pitching and doing what he's doing, all praise is due. We assume he's going to pitch again. Maybe as early as the playoffs. I don't think so, but who knows? But I look at Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is a DH. Doesn't even play the field. Ken Griffey Jr. at his best was the best or second best outfielder in all of baseball, in front of or behind Barry Bonds. Never got accused of any drug use in his career. And this dude hit 58 home runs. As beautiful as Shohei's swing is, Ken Griffey Jr. has the most beautiful swing I've ever seen before. Ken Ken Griffey Jr.'s swing was equivalent to Tiger Woods hitting a golf ball in his prime. Beautiful. That's my take on that. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the entertainment business. Vicky says, I love watching Ken Griffey Jr. play. Yeah, me too. That was a lot of fun. Everybody knows what's happening in the news. All the parties, the exploitation. I never got behind the rope. I was in the music business for a while. I've been an artist for a long period of time. I was never in a situation where I was going to do something that I did not want to do. And why? Because I knew that I would lose control of myself, and that was not going to happen. I also knew that that meant that I probably wasn't going to reach my full potential monetarily in the music business. And I was okay with that. I had an education. I had things to fall back on. I heard someone recently make the point that people have done a lot of exploitive things or they've been exploited in their careers. And maybe they felt the way about it, but they did it. They did whatever they did. Years down the road, they came to the conclusion that what they were doing was actually an example of exploitation, and now they want to speak their truth and speak about what transpired. I respect it, but me personally, I don't think I could do that. Because in my realm of consciousness at that particular point, I would know that's not something I should be doing. I would assume that other people would be in that headspace where they're making those decisions as well. When we hear these stories about exploitation, a lot of times it's women. And I understand why, and it's horrible. I think anybody wants to tell their truth, tell your truth. But some of these things, some of the things that have happened to men, it's just as horrible. But you hear people talk about driving from God knows where in their car to Los Angeles with $500 in their pocket, and they're going to make it. I'm not doing that. Most of the time, it doesn't work out well for you. So, I'm not all that interested in talking about it because I wasn't there. But I think that you got to have some culpability. It's just me. When I was dealing with folks in the business and things got crazy, then I always stepped away from it. And I knew that was going to have an effect on how successful I would become, whether or not my records got played. And I was okay with that. And as I matured and I got older, I realized that that's not why you make music. That's not why you do art. You know, a lot of people sell their souls, sell their lives just to become famous, you know, with the illusion of becoming rich and all that stuff. And I can tell you right now, nobody makes it by mistake. Nobody. The industry is too big. It's a machine. Why would they pick you out of a crowd of 200 people? Thousands. Because you're talented? The other people are talented. The industry doesn't work that way. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I think I mentioned it last time. I'm not quite sure. But Gary Payton is the new head coach at the College of Alameda. I think that's a good thing. I'm happy for him. And hope he does well. Also, I just want to acknowledge A's fans, the fans who have been with the team who grew up with their grandparents, their parents taking them to A's games, to have this culminate with the team walking away from you when you've done nothing wrong. I feel for you. And things will get better. Playing sports and getting older and realizing that sports is a business. Sports are a business. And bad things happen. This year, oh my God. Oakland is the one city that never should lose a professional team, because the fans are irrationally in love with their teams. Beyond the money, you want to have fans who are loyal, who will be there all the time. Those are A's and Raider fans. And to have an owner kind of turn their back on that fan base, I think it's horrible. And I feel for the fans who are hurting. I'll just say that. The Smitty says, cut Ronnie Bell now. It won't be surprising if he's not around. I think you know that. Vicky says, it's sad about Oakland. That owner is a jerk. Not one of my favorite owners, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to do my thing. Get out of here, everybody. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. We've done our 90 minutes. I'm really going to take into consideration doing a watch party. I don't know how that whole thing works. Give me some pointers on how it would work. Just commenting about the game while it's happening. What happens at halftime? What do you do at halftime? Do you sign off? Do you tell jokes at halftime? I mean, how does that whole thing work? I don't know. Subscribe to the show, In the Dungeon Show, and also hit the like button if you like the show. I appreciate it. It helps the show, helps the algorithm. Like, I know what the hell that is, because I don't. I'm going to do my thing, get out of here. Success in getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. Vicky says, thanks, Frank. Great show as always. I appreciate y'all. Everybody be safe, and I'll see you in the near future. All right? Peace out. Good night, everybody.